Here are the horoscopes for the week of the 20th to the 26th of June 2016. We are approaching the summer solstice, and it's quite a rare occasion this time because we have a full moon as well. So we have a full moon, the second full moon in Sagittarius, at the time of the summer solstice. So first of all, the summer solstice. Well, solstice means sun stands still. So this is from our perspective on Earth when the sun rises and sets at the same place in the sky at maximum arc. So we, in the northern hemisphere, experience the longest amount of daylight hours. So the solstice is a 3 to 4 day event. It goes from the 20th to the 24th of June, when we start to see that arc reduce in the sky. The sun starts to rise and set slightly nearer, and that means that we're decreasing the amount of daylight hours, so we're into the darker half of the year, the waning half if you like. So we have the second of two Sagittarius full moons coming up on Monday at the beginning of the solstice. So we have the moon at the height of its power, the full moon, and the sun at the height of its power, the full sun. So this is a draw across the skies between Sagittarius and Gemini. The sun is in Gemini at the twins, which is the light and dark half of the year, and the moon is full at the last degrees of Sagittarius. Now these degrees of Sagittarius, when the sun passes over that point, it's the winter solstice, so it's an interesting solstice combination here of midsummer and midwinter. So Sagittarius is the sage, it's the shaman, it's the wise one, it's our link back to our ancestors. So we had the first full moon in Sagittarius in mid-May at the first degrees of Sagittarius, and now this is the end one, so we can see this like two bookmarks. Go back to the 21st of May and have a look at what was going on around then, what came up, because a full moon will bring something up from our deep subconscious for reflection. That's what a full moon is. Often it can bring closure to a certain situation, but in this case, because we've got this book ending, I feel that we began a journey. And Sagittarius is the journeyer, it's expansion, because the sun is born in that sign. It's all about having a clear road ahead and where are we travelling to. And travel can be very much inside our inner knowing as well as getting on an aeroplane. So what journey began on the 21st of May, and we've also had a number of other aspects which I've spoken about, including the Grand Cross. So it has been challenging. There's been no negating responsibility, there's no avoidance here, no projecting onto other people, but to turn around and to face our fears and our faults and to explore our inner landscape. The Grand Cross is back now with Mercury taking up pole position at the top in Gemini. So we have Mercury opposite Saturn in Sagittarius. Mercury is where we draw down thought and where we process and where we then communicate and take action. Ideas and inspiration made real. And Saturn is where we learn the deeper lessons, and Saturn is currently retrograde in Sagittarius, going back to school, fact-checking, researching, and going back to make sure that what we're working upon, as far as beliefs are concerned, are actually true, and we're not just repeating what we've been told. So in a way, Saturn retrograde in Sagittarius has an unlearning aspect. Go back and actually check, is it true? Don't make assumptions, don't build on false bases, but take the responsibility and the time to go back and make sure that it's actually your knowledge and your wisdom. So a very powerful pull across the skies there. Those two can work perfectly well together, and opposition doesn't have to be a tug of war. It's just honouring both sides of the equation and getting them into coherent alignment. Because it's a Grand Cross, we have a number of squares still to work with as well. So we've got Jupiter wanting to push forwards in Virgo and make plans and projects, but we've got Neptune opposite in Pisces, retrograde recently, just starting to go retrograde and catch up on speed, which is taking us back to the sole purpose of what we're doing first before we just plough ahead for the sake of it. And then we have the four squares, which I'm not going to break down one by one, but basically those four aspects: Mercury, the intelligence, the inspiration, tuning into higher thought forms; Saturn, going backwards, going back to school, doing the research and making sure that the beliefs that we're forming are real. And then Jupiter wanting to put that into action, and Neptune saying, yes, but hold on, what's the real purpose of this? So this is actually a less tense grand square. If we work with it, we have earth, air, fire and water each doing their job. So if we can actually live from those 4 levels, if we can get all 4 areas of ourselves in alignment, then this should actually be each planet doing the right job. So for this to all come into place, to fit into the puzzle, to actually come into completion at the time of a full moon, at the time of the summer solstice, does feel like a great completion is taking place. It feels stable, it feels wise, it feels like it's safe to actually build on strong foundations and come from our innermost core to create something of real worth. We also have Venus in Cancer this week and for the next couple of weeks. This is a once-a-year event, Venus in Cancer. Venus moves very close to the Sun, so it follows the zodiac on almost a monthly basis too. Venus in Cancer can be very emotional, but there's not much point having emotions just for the sake of it, so it's a case of learning to become a bit more masterful about what we're feeling. And the connection between our thoughts and feelings. Are we going round in circles? Are we indulging in self-pity? Are we just creating feelings to make our life more interesting? Or are those feelings actually serving us? The way I like to feel about the Cancerian energy is expand and contract, because Cancer is ruled by the moon. So one quick way to have a look at whether the emotions that we're having are actually teaching us, whether we're learning, whether we're actually growing from them, is just to think, am I feeling expanded or contracted? If we're feeling expanded, then that's normally a very, very good sign. And if we're feeling contracted, then with Mercury in Gemini and the Grand Cross too, we have the opportunity to go in and explore what is causing that restriction and that constraint. So we have a very intelligent chart for the week where we can actually become the master of our emotions and break free of some of the behavioural patterning and conditioning that we've been taught to follow. So high perspective this week, really, really high perspective. I think everything is in a beautiful alignment, but it's just a case of being able to choose the right part of ourselves to go into, to take a look at, to work from, to act from. There's a big complex combination there that will be different for everyone, but there is order, there is balance to be found. For further perspective, it's always worth on a full moon going back 6 months to see what was happening at the new moon. What did you start? What intentions did you set? What was important and what were you heading towards? Because this second full moon will bring all of that into culmination as well. So it's not just the journey that we've been on in the last month, but also where we've been in the last 6 months. So there's a good retrospective there. Sometimes at the new moon we jump to set intentions, and yet we haven't walked the path, we haven't received all the wisdom, and we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. So to look back with gratitude, to actually give ourselves some credit and some congratulations for all the hard work that we've done. Because with half the planets going forwards and half of them going in retrograde, it's not all about just keep performing, keep producing, keep pushing forwards. At a full moon we like to reflect with gratitude on what we've actually achieved, the challenges that have been met, the insight that's been found, and the sense of coming back to self and completion that can bring. So going back 6 months is quite a good exercise to see what's changed, what actually matters to us now, what have we decided to leave behind, what have we managed to clear away in order to make that broad horizon that we can travel further. And then at the solstice we capture the light. So with the sun at the height of its power and the moon at the height of its power, if we capture the essence of this and make it our skeleton, our backbone, as the light begins to wane, then that means that we're self-lit, we're strong on the inside, and this will take us through the winter months. So for me, I think this has been a year like no other. There's been challenge after challenge. There's been so much going on, especially during April and May, that maybe just pause over the solstice, appreciate life, appreciate nature, appreciate your growing, sense of self and your soul reconnection. You're retrieving all the pieces of yourself to make yourself more whole, and maybe just take a pause of gratitude, of reflection, and let the energies sink in. There's not really much direct action required at the moment. So wishing you a wonderful solstice and full moon, and I will see you next week. For me, I love to teach astrology as well as deliver it, as I believe that we can all wake up and remember how to work with this amazing art. So if anybody would like to have these horoscopes on their website, then I'm very happy to share the link with you. And if you would like to come and engage with your own chart and see how that's working with the current energies and have some lively conversations on related esoteric subjects, then I have a beautiful, warm-hearted Facebook group that you can come and join in with and learn as you go in your own pace and time. And the same goes with my courses. My online courses are video and notes based, and you have email access to me so that you can actually learn this in your own time, take your time, and walk with the cycles of the planets to actually feel them as they happen. Alternatively, if you'd like to sit down one-to-one and explore your chart, then I am available over Skype or in London, so please do contact me, zoeheinz7@gmail.com.